Welcome, everybody, to another episode of On the Range podcast with Hogg Tactical and Kelley Defense. I am Mark Kelley, and as always, welcome, everybody, to another episode of On the Range podcast with Hogg Tactical and Kelley Defense. I am Mark Kelley, and as always, with me is Rick Hogg from Hogg Tactical. How's it going today, buddy?
Man, Mark, it is going great. Been a while since we've done a live episode. Super excited about this one. Here's the thing. I want to thank the viewers, listeners out there for giving us your most precious commodity, your time to tune in. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest. I'll do a quick intro, and then we'll get the show started.
Super excited about this one.
Yeah, buddy. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got Tony Cowden here. So I'm going to give Tony a slight little intro. Not only is he a fellow Special Forces Green Beret, he is also running for the 4th Congressional District here in North Carolina. So we're looking for people to tune in with questions, specifically from my North Carolinians, get that insight. And then here's the thing, man. If you listen to Tony, listen to what he's putting out. It is solid, good stuff, not like your regular politics stuff. Something Tony's done that I haven't seen a lot of politicians do is, man, he's got buy-in from his wife. So especially from the military side, that is a huge thing. So utmost respect for that. And then here's the last but not least thing, Tony. I got to tell you this. My hat's off to you, brother. You donated to the In Honor of Duco project, which was absolutely huge. I know you're trying to fundraise yourself. That speaks volumes. So from me to you, just want to say thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, Tony Cowden, thank you for your service, buddy. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, man. It's huge. Thanks for having me on. And it's funny, man. Clearly we have damn near a kennel full worth of hounds and mutts around here. And working with you guys over the years, and Lord knows I've had dogs. Like no shit, saved my team's life. And seen them give their own, to protect us, man. So you guys, the dogs and the dog handlers, it's huge. And being home and stuff. While none of my dogs are like licensed or certified, service dogs. They really do. They make me laugh, and probably harder than any other person ever has, right? Other person, as if my dogs are people. But man.
Yeah. They're family members without a doubt. So
yeah. Do you know Doc T, Travis Hall from the 5th group?
I do. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So sidebar note, we donated to his organization as well. So part of the In Honor of Duco project.
Yep.
Just trying to help him out and all the great stuff that he does.
Yeah, man, freaking that it is such a big deal. He and I both are in 20th group, work on the ASD together, Suffolk and all that stuff. And he always brings his dog down. And oddly enough, Doc T has been helping me on the breacher side, like classes. So we get to have the dogs that he brings down, in the breacher cell, breacher bay. And so anyway, that makes our side of the house way cooler. Now all of a sudden everybody wants to be a breacher.
That's it, man. Come hang out with the dogs. But
we're super,
Tony. No, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was going to say, it was super glad that you could do this. I know you're busy. I know you got a million things going on. You had your business going. You got a huge following on social media. And for those of you who don't know, that Tony's got a lot of great instruction on there, but the common sense reaction to current events and things like that have been there. And it's not surprising that you're running for the House of Representatives. I could see that coming. I didn't know that you would take that leap, but what brought you to the point where you thought, I'm going for this?
Oh, man. It really just boiled down to just being fed up. I mean, I think we're all fed up, so I guess, talking to a really good friend of mine, Ilario Pantano, he was the Marine Corps lieutenant who was charged with murder and the whole mess in Fallujah. He ran for Congress in 2010 and 12 in District 7, New Hanover County, and that's how I met him. I was living in Wilmington, New Hanover County, and he and I were. He came by to visit. Hadn't seen him in a couple of years. He came by to visit on Easter Day, and we got to talk. And he was like, I asked him, I was like, man, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And it led to, well, maybe I should run for Congress. And he turned to me and he was like, absolutely. If there's ever a time. And that kind of was like, okay, well, that kind of planted the seed. And that was, like I said, on Easter Day. So that's been how many ever months ago. And, of course, the next conversation had to be with Melissa. And that conversation probably lasted a week. We talked about it, decided to talk about it more later. And ultimately, she was like, let's do it, And, of course, I absolutely had to have her support. And because clearly we're getting ready to, change our lives. This is some life-changing stuff, right? I'm already a busy person, right? People always say, hey, you're busy. Like Mark, you're like, hey, I know you're busy. Thanks for having. No, man, I'm a busy person. I stay busy. Even when I have nothing to do, I'll go find something to do. I've always got something going on. I've always been that way. But this is a whole different level of participation. And Melissa, she's a lot more of a private person than I am. Like, I put a lot of stuff out there on social media, and she posts, man, but you never really get to know her because she posts pictures, not a lot of videos. She's a dentist, and there's really not a lot of reason for her to have a social media presence, especially on Instagram. That's like more nationwide and stuff like that. So anyway, we chatted, and it was like, okay, let's do this, and we started planning and assessing, right? Let's do this. The initial was, okay, let's assess it and see if this is a viable thing in the first place. Because if we're going to do it, do we have an actual chance of winning? And do we have an actual chance of helping correct this very downward trajectory that we're on? And when we vetted those two with a yes, that's when the decision was made. And that was probably like legit in August, September timeframe. And that's when we really started planning, started putting the team together, and launched it, man.
Wow.
So, that was the ultimate thing. Can we potentially, and I say this with some reserve, can we make a difference? Because the more I get involved and the more I see things, then I'm like, wow, this what we're looking at as far as DC and the swamp, this isn't new. We're talking generations upon generations of legacy corruption, and that's all we can call it at this point. And some of it's so criminal, and they just cover it up. You got Republicans versus Democrat. At this point, I'm like, that's all just a bunch of horse shit. It's just horse shit. There are two wings on the same bird.
Yeah.
And so if I think we could actually maybe flatten this trajectory a little bit, I wouldn't bother, man. I got a pretty good life, right? Like, I really do. We were looking at moving to Idaho and continuing our lives. So doing this is quite the change in direction of what we had originally planned on doing with the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So
in
So,
dramatic
Tony, real
fashion
quick.
too, man. Geez.
Yeah.
Very dramatic fashion. Go ahead, Rick. Sorry about it.
So no, Tony. So can you go over? I know right now, for those of you, viewers, listeners out there that aren't from North Carolina, probably have no idea, but we are basically in a congressional districting lawsuit going on right now, and I know you're looking to run for the 4th. Where it's currently at, we don't know, because I think the verdict has to be done by the 11th, if I remember correctly, and then you'll kind of know. But what counties do those encompass within the state?
So, real quick history on that. North Carolina gained a seat in the House because we gained population. So they redid the census. So everything's a little cramped for time. So the state legislature, which is predominantly Republican, they redistricted. And so, of course, the Democrats see the new districts as unfavorable to them. So they automatically launched a lawsuit. Had it been the other way around, the Republicans probably would have launched a lawsuit as well. Right? It's just part of the game that we play, right? And at this point, calling politics a game is kindness, to say the least, because it's just a mess, man. So yeah, they They redistricted. Now we got the lawsuit. January 11 comes. They should most likely, the district should likely stay the same or very similar. It could go a couple of different ways. The courts could hand it back to the legislators. They try again, and then it'll be something they're going to have to press pretty quickly. They could just rule it. Okay, cool. We're going to stay with it. Worst, craziest case scenario, they send it back to the House, to the State House. State House redistricts slightly, goes back to court, and then the courts have to decide. We probably don't see that happening just because of time, right? They did move the primary elections from March to May, so we got till May from to sort all this mess out. Most folks are saying they see it being settled on the 11th. So if it is settled and it stays the way it is, we're looking at Sampson County, a little bit of southwestern Wayne County, Johnston County, Harnett County, and Cumberland County as the district. We decided that, you know what, while the other potential candidates, some of the other candidates, while they're kind of sitting back and going and waiting, we decided not to wait. There's a couple of potential candidates who are looking at the districts, trying to decide where they want to run. You know, where do they have the best chance of winning? I told my team, I'm like, look, I'm going to run where I live. I'm going to run to represent my neighbors. Because legally speaking, right, you could live in Asheboro and run in the district, you know, in the, you know, the second northeastern North Carolina or whatever. To me, that makes no sense. I want to run in the district I live in, and this is probably going to be the four. So we decided to go ahead for it. If no matter what the district is, wherever my home lands in, then that's the district I'm going to run in. But like I said, most likely the fourth will remain mostly unchanged, and those counties I just named will be my district.
Okay.
You know, that's something you don't hear in politics very often, is the representation part.
All right.
You know, when we send someone up there, we're not saying, hey, man, use your best judgment and I want to hear your opinion. No, we want you to represent us and what we're saying and listen to what we're in. We want to see that with your voting. So that's very unique to what you're doing right now. Has the response been positive? Overwhelmingly?
Well, yeah, you know what? You say we, right? So we who have been paying attention, but most of us who have not been paying attention the last 20, 30 years of our adult lives, we have just been sending them up there and they've been doing whatever the hell they want. Well, now that we're starting to pay attention, we're saying, hey, wait a minute. We expect you to go up there and represent us. And of course, in our community, we're always we pay attention, words have meanings. And that's why I've been very adamant that I am not running for Congress, right? I'm running to be a representative. If you look at half the so-called representatives, Instagram pages and all that, or they're up for re-election, it's always whoever for Congress.
Right.
Well, look up the word Congress in the dictionary. It means meeting. So you're telling me you're a person of meetings? No, man. I'm running to be a representative. And that's another point. Americans have gotten so used to it. And I'm getting asked a lot about, hey, what are your stances on policies? And we're working on that part of the website to tell you guys where I really do stand. I can sum it up in 3 things. Because it's less about what I think, feel, or believe, right? My opinions, my thoughts, my beliefs are less important than my potential constituents. So any policy, any hot topic that you send my way, I can guarantee you my answer is going to come from 3 things, 3 references. Number 1, the Constitution. Right? That's where Congress gets its legal authorities and limitations. Right? That's where the entire federal government is supposed to get its authorities and limitations.
Yeah.
Right? Supposed to. That's a crazy concept. Constitution. Number 2, the 10 Commandments. Right? It's a pretty good resource for all of us for good versus bad, right? And I say that, I tell people straight up, hey, I'm a Christian. I've always been a Christian. I was raised in the Methodist Church. I've never doubted my faith. I do say that, hey, there's been some times where I haven't been super faithful, right? Not a choir boy, right? Not a choir boy here. I was a pretty misbehaved young guy, SF, work hard, play hard type of thing. So definitely not a choir boy here. But the reason why I say the Ten Commandments and not the Bible is the reality is in America, we have folks who aren't just Christians. And every single religion that I've ever looked at has some form of the Ten Commandments. Right? So the Ten Commandments is relatable across all religions. But I'm very straightforward. I am a Christian, right? Also, I don't push it on people because I'm ready to run for office and separation of church and state.
Mm-hmm.
The Christian principles and guidelines are solid. They're good. Number 3, and probably, but definitely as important as the first two, the constituents. What do the voters, the people who elect me, what do they want and need? And it blows my mind that right now I could go to most any major city in North Carolina and ask 10 people who their representative is. And they don't know.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know. Why don't they know? Because their representatives don't get out and actually talk to them.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
It just blows my mind, right? How can you represent the people that you don't, if they don't even know who you are, they don't know how to get a hold of you. I've sent emails, DMs, and text to my representative. The email, you get some blanket response.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
But you're hitting the nail on the head, Tony. Here's what I think the problem is, right? So when you kind of look at, let's just use state and federal. So at the state level, we don't have a full-time legislation. Those guys are part-time.
Right.
But we have full-time representatives, up in DC. Let's think about it. They're always in there bickering, getting Zippo done. How much time is there actually to come home, chat with the constituents, or I got it, you're calling up to DC, you're talking to whoever the secretary is, and I know what they're doing. If they're even doing this, they're putting a tally tick next to yay or nay, whatever, happens to be up there. And hopefully, I'm hoping at the end of the day, they would count the tick marks and go, hey, the nays say this, or the yeas say this, or that should be the driving factor.
Right.
But too many times in politics, what blows me away is nobody up there ever says my constituents, right? We get so wrapped around U.S. politics that, well, here's my stance. Here's the deal. Your stance can be this today, but if your constituents all go, no way, dude, we don't like that. Why can't people change?
Right.
You should.
Right. Absolutely.
The people are telling me I'm there to represent them. And like I said, Tony, from me to you, I've heard nobody ever mention that. Nobody ever go, I'm the voice of the constituents.
Right. Well, hell, most of your, I'm very straightforward. A lot of people think I'm being too hard on Republicans. All right. Here's why I'm hard on Republicans. The Democrats are a clear and present danger, right? They are in our face. We know they are an adversary, and they're a legit adversary. They are a danger. The leftists, right? Because there's still some good Democrats out there, who are principled good people that aren't crazy.
There was one senator that did a lot of good this last couple months.
Yeah. And he, Manchin, he's jumping up and down that, hey, I represent West Virginia, a lot like his predecessor, Senator Byrd. But, they are still Democrats. I'm not faulting the Democrats for where America is today. I am faulting the Republicans who have caved step after step for decades to the Democrats and the far left. They have compromised every step of the way to where and gotten us to where we are right now.
Yeah.
Right. So here's a good example, a very recent example that'll resonate, especially with us and the Cumberland County community. Right. It was touted as a win. It was a big win that they were able to get service members honorable discharges for refusing the vaccine. That's not a win. That's a stupid compromise. The win would have been you fought for them and you kept their careers intact.
Yeah.
And then, all right, you take one on the chin and you lose. You go down in the third round, right? All right, we lost it. Sorry, service members. But you know what? when we flip the house in 2022, and that's going to happen,
Yes.
we're going to not only get you your jobs back, you're going to start off at the same rank and we're going to back pay you.
Boom.
Oh, I haven't heard a single one, not even the loudmouth former servicemen and women who serve, right? Who are in Congress right now. Not one of them are talking about taking care of our servicemen and women, young men and women who volunteered to serve just like we did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we cared about our country. We just destroyed their lives and their careers, and now we've made them no promises about their future. Well, I tell you what, man, I'll do everything I can if I can get up there, when I get up there, however you want to phrase that, getting those servicemen and women their jobs back. If you refuse the vaccine, we'll give you your job back and you get back pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm probably the only person that's even brought that up or talked about it. You know, oh, we got honorable discharges. And what?
Have
And
either
what?
of those two reached out to you?
Who's that?
I don't know if you want to say their names. We don't have to, but I
We
know.
can. I don't care. I don't care at this point. I'll say names. I'll talk about people specifically.
How about this? Anybody that are current sitting representatives, have they reached back at you and had anything to ask you or to comment about your run or any of your comments?
I've had one representative contact me and was supportive, was excited to hear I was running, and that's Madison Cawthorn.
Okay.
Now, admittedly, I think we may have raised some conflict of interest for Madison because he's supporting Bo Hines, and Bo Hines may very well run against me. But that's fine. That's fine with me, right? Madison sided with, hey, I'm going to support Bo Hines. And that's what democracy is about, right? Bo Hines runs against me. If Bo Hines wins, cool, right? He is now my representative. I'm going to expect him to act like a representative, right?
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about democracy, right? Is that the voters are going to choose who they want to go up there. But as far as any other incumbents reaching out to me, nah. So here's a tradition a lot of people may not know about. So I will tell you, in parallel to my goals of running, I'm also going to try to educate as many people as I can about this process as I learn about it. Fundraising, campaign finance, it is horrible. It's a mess, right? The laws and rules, they favor the elite, right? Speaking of dogs, they favor the elite, right? It's made no sense throughout this process to me that basically whoever can raise the most money, no matter where it comes from, is considered the best candidate.
Yeah.
Doesn't make them the right candidate.
No.
It just means that they had deep pocket friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, hey, why don't we just, for congressional races and Senate races, why don't we just cap it at $500,000? Individual donations only, no corporate donations, no PAC, no nothing. Let's get rid of all of that.
Yeah.
And then now it's even. Now it's an even playing field. Because let's face it, man, if some other candidate comes in and they're already super wealthy, they may be able to donate, $1 million to themselves or $2 million themselves and just buy all the ads. And now you got your recognition. That's how it works, right? It's kind of a popularity contest,
Mm-hmm.
So that needs to be fixed. But here's another weird tradition, maybe you should call it, or we could call it. Incumbents rarely endorse or openly support candidates in the primaries, right? So there are special operations veterans in Congress as we speak. You would think they would openly jump right out and say, hey, we're going to support Tony Cowden or Jay Collins or Dan Anderson or Joe Kent. Nothing. They won't even talk to us.
And why is that?
I think it's that they're I'll cut to the chase. They're fucking pussies.
All right.
All right. Because they don't want to associate with a potential loser in the primaries and blemish their own potential careers. Well, here's why I don't give a shit. And excuse my language, right? I'm starting to get aggravated. I'm still working. I'm still working on my refinement. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
But I've told numerous people, I've already started talking to some pretty awesome folks about running in 2024, right? I'm already starting to groom that next bunch, even though I haven't even won yet. But I've promised them, I was like, I will break that stupid tradition and openly support you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's going to take. I don't care. And the reason I don't care about if you elect me, right? If they elect me, if the fourth district elects me, I'm not going to care about my future career because I'm already promising you I will only do 4 or 5 terms tops. Right? I'm going to instill a term limit on myself. I'm going to go to DC, try to fix some stuff, and then I'm going to come home and go back to my life, which is pretty darn good. And then I'm going to move out west, and I'm going to be able to pay, resident prices for elk tags.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, right? These behaviors out of our current representatives, these incumbents, it's all predicated on them getting reelected. It's like all they
Right.
care about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, our forefathers, as wise as they clearly were, what an amazing bunch of people. I say that the one thing they never foresaw was America's luxuries and the greed that comes out of that type of luxurious living. And that's what
Yeah.
we have, man. We got a bunch of incumbents who all they care about is getting reelected. I don't care about getting reelected,
Yeah.
right?
But see,
If
Tony,
I'm not doing my job and I don't get
Yep.
reelected, hey, fair enough. That's the way it's supposed to work.
but here's the $1 million question, right? Why do all these cats want to get reelected? Why do they not want to put term limits on, right? So Uncle Sugar tells me, hey, man, you've got to get out of the Army at a certain point. But these career politicians can stay up there. And then I scratch my head and do simple math and go, hey, you're at $150, a year paycheck. All right. You got to live. So that's going to cost you some money. How are you rolling out with your umpteen $1 million to the positive side on a job where you should be like breaking even, just living the way you're living?
Right.
And
That's an
then you
excellent
said,
question, isn't it?
yeah,
I
wonder.
I wish because 150 grand, right? Like I've had some years where I've made that. I've had years I've made less. I had a couple years I made a little bit more. But I look around at the way I'm living, and I look at some of the mansions that they're living in, and I'm like, man, I'm just not doing math right. I need the calculator that Congress and the Senate uses. I need that calculator.
Yeah.
Let's face
Yep.
it, man. We all know at this point that there's
Yeah.
been some insider trading, right? We all know it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I go back, right? That's clearly a problem, right? Immigration, huge problem. Second Amendment issues, huge problem. The biggest problem in America today is you and me and everyone watching this and everyone else has sat back and allowed them to do the shit that they're doing.
Mhm.
That's the biggest problem in America today because the second we demand more, right? And what does that mean? People are constantly asking me, what do I mean by that? I'm like, hey, man, yes, you have to email them. And if they don't respond to you, you vote them out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what it's kind of horrible. There's a lot of really crappy Republican incumbents that aren't even being challenged. They're running
Yeah.
opposed.
Yeah.
No, man,
For decades.
oppose them. It's
Yeah.
time to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you were talking about your Marine Corps friend who ran and didn't get the seat,
right.
and he said, yeah, now's the perfect time. Was that because you guys, during your conversations, you realized that this wave was coming, like what we saw with old dude up there in New Jersey who got the seat, with the $1,200 budget, and the young kid in the school district in Virginia who won and beat the incumbent? Was it that kind of trend that you saw coming, or did you just feel that you were just fed up and you wanted to start representing this?
Yeah, that was definitely part of it. The realization that America is becoming more and more fed up. It was about that time that people were getting really fed up with the whole mandates on children.
Man.
I feel like that's the number one thing that has opened the eyes of the average conservative, principled, good, hardworking American man and woman is that you started messing with their children.
Yeah.
Yep.
The math mandates, the critical race theory, and all that crap. It was one thing when they were pressing a socialist agenda in college. The
Mhm.
average, good, hardworking, conservative, parents, they say, well, you know what? He or she, my kid, is now an adult. They're going to go to college and they're going to sort it out for themselves. because that's probably how the parents were raised.
Yeah.
Kind of like I was. My dad's teaching style was figure it out, right? And you got till I get home to figure it out, right? And
Mhm.
that's how a lot of good American parents raise their kids. They teach them to be independent and to think for themselves. So you go to college, sort it out. But the second they started messing with elementary kids and junior high school kids and the middle school kids, ooh, right? That opened the hardworking, principled American conservative eyes, man. It opened their eyes, and they're like, okay, we're not doing this. Now people are ready to get involved. So it was about that time that Ilario and I were having that conversation, and it was like, yeah, this is it, right? People are truly starting to get fed up. Uh, so that was a big part of it for sure.
Yeah.
And then Tony, what was your choice to go representative versus Senate? I mean, obviously time is one, but if you had
Oh
to
no,
sit there and
no.
take a step,
No, it's way simpler than that. It's more fundamental, more principle based.
okay,
Our founding fathers fully intended the Senate to be the elite,
okay,
right? It was modeled after the Brits, which was modeled after the Roman Empire. The Senate was supposed to be the elites, right? You were supposed to be better educated, lawyers, doctors, whatever, right? And the representatives were supposed to be like the House of Commons, the House of the common person,
hmm,
right? And this is all very, very easy to research. All we have to do is read what our founding fathers wrote. They wrote everything down. I don't know how they had so much time writing with a damn feather and some ink. It's not like they were dictating into their phone. Them dudes wrote so much stuff.
Yeah.
And it's amazed me that because of this, I started reading and realizing, like, holy crap, like so much of stuff I thought about our history and the Constitution and why it was written the way it
hmm,
was. I'm just amazed. I'm like, holy crap,
Yeah.
these dudes were way more smart than I ever thought. And I
Mhm.
thought they were brilliant since I was a kid. So
Yeah.
the House of Representatives is supposed to be a representative of the common folk, right? So that's why I chose it.
Yeah.
That's why I chose it. And
yeah,
it blows my mind because, like, we across the nation, you have former or current representatives or former representatives run for Senate. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How is the House of Representatives a stair step to the Senate?
hmm,
That it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
More so, there are just over 170 lawyers in the House of Representatives as we speak. Get out of here. No.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what we needed the House of Representatives? Farmers, small business people, former
hmm,
military, enlisted. We could stand some enlisted folks, right? I personally have about had enough of officers, not my career. Um, because you guys
Uh,
know as well as I do, right? How often we hear, well, he's a good officer. You
hmm,
actually have to make a distinction that alpha is a good officer. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Right? Like,
oh yeah,
because why? Because from the time they start ROTC or go to West Point, they are
oh
already
yeah.
indoctrinated to
Yeah.
care about one thing, and that's their damn careers. They
hmm,
become politicians by the time they're a captain, some
Yeah.
of
oh
them
yeah,
before that.
yep,
So we need some common folk. Common folk. And dude, I am a commoner. Uh, and I remember the single wide trailer that I was raised in. I
hmm,
watched my father start a business. He was in the seafood business. I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up over on the other side of New Bern in
Mm.
Pamlico County, one of the most rural counties in this state. And so he got in the seafood business and he basically owned the docks, right? Boats bring it to the docks. He processes it, packages it, ships it to restaurants. And I watched him build that business. I participated. I always joke that, my dad had me because he needed help. He needed labor. Um,
Well,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
That's why they had the, 9, 10, 11 kids.
Well, he had three, but the princesses that, are on either side of me, my
Oh
older
yeah.
sister and my young
Yeah.
sister. And I use the term princess because I love them to death.
Yeah.
They're amazing women who have both been very successful. And I will tell you, man, where I come from in Pamlico County, there is a very much a cycle of not leaving there. Not
hmm,
that staying there is a bad thing, but a lot of folks don't
No.
go to college. They don't leave there and go do anything except for exactly what their parents did. And that's a good thing. And that's what I'm representing, right?
Yeah.
My sisters are great people. They're both a little more left than I am.
Well, yeah.
We try to stay not talking politics because that usually winds up not so good.
Mhm.
Well, that's got to
But
be an interesting dynamic, though. Now,
yeah,
so I mean, are they
yeah.
supporting? I'm sure they're supporting you.
Hmm. You know what? I need to look up and see if they donated. Right? Hmm. That's a
Well,
good question.
let's not get out of hand financially.
Right.
You know,
Right. So you know what? They love me enough to support me in any endeavor.
that's
Whether or
what I
not
mean,
they
right?
would donate or contribute to my campaign or even vote for me, I don't know.
Yeah. So
You know,
Yeah.
my younger sister's a social worker and she helps so many people.
Yeah.
She is a constant foster of dogs. Like right now, she probably has like 6 dogs in her house in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Wow.
God bless her. You know,
Good for
she's
them. Yeah.
awesome. You know, the fact that she loves so much, right? She's so capable of loving like that. You know, that makes me want to love her, and I do
Mhm.
love her. My older
Yeah.
sister is a. You can Google her. She's a very much a world-renowned pediatric endocrinologist, and she's run
Wow.
Wow.
research that has helped cure conditions. An
Wow.
amazing, amazing woman. But she
Wow.
spent probably the last, I mean, almost 20 years living in Massachusetts. So yeah, she's a
Oh,
little more
geez.
liberal, right? You know?
They give you
The Commonwealth will do that
awards
to
for
you.
that, don't they? Don't you get
Yeah,
awards for living there that long?
Oh,
yeah, yeah. So, you know, I mean, she lives a very much a different lifestyle than I do. You know, she has changed classes, right? She's probably not as much as a commoner anymore. And I'm not saying
mhm.
that in a bad way. But, right,
Yeah.
if she was to run for office, she should run for Senate. That's the
Mhm.
way the
Yeah.
forefathers intended it. So that is why I chose, to answer your question, that is why I chose the House over the Senate.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So Tony, you brought up as far as donations. If people want to donate, going to the website, is that the best place? What's kind of the best
That is
way?
that is really the only place aside from writing a handwritten check. Yeah, you know, like I was talking about, you know, trying to educate folks. Yeah, TonyCowden.com. Which that is the weirdest thing, right? I have a website with my name in it. That is the weirdest thing for
That's when
you
you
know.
know you've made it, right?
That's when you know, right, that you're having to figure out this whole quite professional thing for the first time, right? Like on the
Mhm.
website, you'll see me in uniform. Like I had friends of mine who didn't even know I was still in 20th group, you know,
Yeah.
much less that, you know, I'm in uniform and stuff. Yeah, I had to get a haircut and shave before those pictures. Uh, Also, right, those pictures do not imply any endorsement from the Department of Defense or the Alabama National Guard. I'm a
Mhm.
National Guard soldier. If you want to look at the Hatch Act, be sure to look up paragraph 4.3. It covers National Guard soldiers. There's my disclaimer. So anyway, yeah, no, I've got no DoD endorsement.
Mhm.
So I don't think I'm going to get one either. Because you want to talk about who I'm really mad at? That brass, bro.
Oh
That
yeah.
brass. You know, we've got
Yep.
Yeah.
cowards and spineless people running that military, and it's some horrible mess.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, as far as donating go, the easiest way is to go right on the website. Like I said, it is weird having a website with just my name in it. But you know, because I did, you know, it's funny. I challenged my consultants, right? My consultants are really good people who I no doubt believe in what I'm doing. It's the only reason they teamed up with me in the first place. And I was like, wait a minute, can't we at least make like Tony for NC or you know Tony Cowden? And it's like you need it to have your name because
Mhm.
Google and search engine
Mhm.
optimization and blah blah. And I was like, are you sure? And they're like, yes. I said, Roger that, because they're the experts. You know the deal,
Mhm.
right? Like, if you're
Yeah.
not the expert in the room, you got to pay attention to those, you
Mhm.
know, whoever you brought in, those enablers, right? So I have
Yep.
to pay attention to them. And so far, you know, nothing but really good things. But yeah, if you do donate, and I've told people this, right? I talked about this on a post I put out last night. Man, we there's not been a lot of campaigns ever that have raised $130,000 in their
That's
first two
amazing.
weeks of announcing. And that was
Mhm.
another tradition I already broke. You got to have good quarters, right, for to be looked at as a viable candidate from whether it's donors or the establishment, the Republican Party. And so I got a lot of advice. You should wait till January 1st, the next quarter. You don't want to risk having a bad quarter. And I was like, you know what? That's the same old, same old. I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. I was like, what do we need? They were like, well, you need $100,000 in the first month to be a viable candidate. I was like, so we got 2 weeks? You know, yeah. I was like, you know what? I trust the folks that follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I trust them that they're going to support us above and beyond that $100,000. And sure enough, holy crap, 1,200 plus individual donors. $5, $10, $50 was 50 and $100 were the two most contributed amounts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had some max donors. Max donor, an individual can donate, and only individuals can donate to that campaign. I'll try to explain how the whole corporate thing works, and we'll segue into that. And it's disgusting. And I say that all the while I'm having to play this game. I'm trying to get PAC support and corporate support. But when I get there, I'm going to try to get rid of some of that mess.
Yeah.
All of it, actually. So individuals can donate up to $2,900. A household, a married couple, can donate $5,800. 2 times 29, right? And so we had a few of those. And that was awesome, right? That was really, really awesome. Some of them were guys I used to serve with and stuff, you know, who have started their own businesses or are contractors or whatever, and they really shelled out. I was like, holy crap, Bo. But you know, you're a former enlisted E5 Ranger, and you just gave me almost $3,000, $2,900 max contribution. Holy crap, bro. And they were like, you're worth it. It's worth it. Thank you for doing it. And some of them even came back with, well, if you can do it, maybe I can do it. I was like, 2024, and I'll support you.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's the way the whole individual thing works. So, you know, like I said, $50 and $100 to the average American donating to our campaign, man, that's a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's a lot of money. That's 4 days of food for me. You know, 3 to 4 days. It's how hard I'm working out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have children. I don't know how many diapers that buys, but I can only assume it's quite a bit. I don't know how much food it pays for people's kids, or books, or backpacks, or new clothes for kids, right? Because kids got to have new clothes. What, every 6 months, a year? They're growing so fast, right?
Oh yeah.
So $50 and $100, and that's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money to the establishment. They care about those max donors, and they care about the corporate stuff. And I do have to care about that. It's just part of the necessary evil. But I care more about the donor than I do the donation.
You know, I heard in your voice the humbleness about having your name on a website.
It's weird.
Tell us what that felt like when you generated that much money from people that I'm probably thinking that majority of them are ones that you're going to be representing. How'd that make you feel?
Man, I still don't even know how to explain it.
Right.
So I've spent my entire life, I've only asked for money a couple of times for a couple of people throughout my life. You know, in a tight spot here, in a tight spot there type of thing. You know, one time I was waiting for the government to pay me for a contract, and I needed some equipment for the gym, and Melissa gave it to me. You know, we bought some new equipment for the gym, and I paid her back, you know, a few weeks later when the government finally got around to paying me. Now that stuff works. So asking people for money is a foreign thing for me. And, you know, talking with my consultants, friends, Melissa, they all said the same thing. They're like, you're not asking for yourself, man. You're asking for an investment in our country's future. And that's what people see you as. So that hit me just as hard, if not harder, than the amount of money people were giving, right? Like, for someone to look at me and say, you are an investment in our country's future, I'm like, whoa. Because let's face it, man, I've always just been the knuckle dragger on the ground somewhere in some desert shithole, just doing work, just trying to do a good job.
Tony,
So
I'm gonna pause you, brother, right? Because here's the thing, man. When you speak to the people, right? You speak, hey man, I'm using the Constitution the 10 commandments and I'm looking at my constituents. Do you know how many people are not saying that? So
Yeah.
just your simple
All of them.
message right there,
Yeah,
that
all of them.
resonates with
Yeah.
people. And it's like, man, what can we do to help? How can we promote?
Yeah.
You know, I got it.
Well,
You know, here's a
and
contribution.
I'm telling people straight up, hey, look, if I get there and after one term, I'm like, hey guys, I'm gonna tell you honestly, I can't fix this. It's
Mhm.
screwed. It's so messed up that I can't do this. Man, I don't know. Will I resign? Will I try harder? I'm just gonna be honest with people. And it's funny. I was talking about the corruption and levels of it. And someone showed me today that one of the biggest contributors to Bain Capital, the firm that Mitt Romney
Mhm.
runs or started, was funded by Maxwell, as in the father of this Maxwell who's just been on the news.
Wow.
The levels of corruption here, I am actually very concerned that I'm not going to be able to do but so much. That I'm concerned that I'm going to be derailed. That this entire campaign will be derailed because the establishment will hear what I'm saying and be like, "Ain't no way we're letting him up there."
Mhm.
Right? There's no way. Right? There's no way we're going to let this dude who is saying he's going to expose our corruption and horseshit. They won't let me do it. So, of course, there's always a concern, and this might sound like a joke. It's a little bit of a joke that I get on Hillary's radar, and next thing you know, poor veteran with PTSD.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I promise you this: Tony Cowden did not kill himself. Right? I don't care. I tell people all the time, right? And that might sound like a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot of folks out there who have been like, "Hey, man, you are ruffling feathers already.
Mhm.
Like you are getting attention already." And I'm like, "Okay, all right." Of course, that makes me go straight into protector mode. Where I start worrying about Melissa, things like that. Man,
Mhm.
it's some spooky stuff. It is
Yeah.
some spooky stuff, man. And you guys know,
Yeah.
with some of the things we've all participated in and done for this government.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Our government's capable of some spooky
The
shit.
fact that you're affecting people and ruffling feathers, that is change. Those type of comments that speaking the truth. And
Yeah,
I'm sure there's going to be those moments where you're like, man, I just don't know if I can really change anything. But I have
right.
full confidence, and the folks that contributed have full confidence that you're gonna find a way. You're gonna find a
Well,
way.
here's the way. Here's the only way it's going to happen is if the American people elect myself, Jay Collins, Dan Anderson, Joe Kent, Eli Crane, Mojo Luttrell, all of these military guys, and holy crap, there's like I don't know, there's almost 30 veterans running. If we can get half of those elected, 15 out of the 30, and don't quote me on that 30, right? It could be more. Um, we just had a 10th group guy announced yesterday. So
Mhm.
there's like 12 or 13 special operations guys. And
Wow.
again, don't quote me on these numbers. So if we can get those folks elected, you're talking about what can be called a caucus. Jay Collins, he's running in Florida's 14th. He's a 7th group guy, unit guy. I don't know if either one of you guys know him.
Mhm.
Great dude, amputee, right? Awesome dude. So he's running in the 14th against one of Pelosi's henchmen. So if we can get those folks, that's a caucus. That's a group of people that everyone else has to run things by. That's how
Wow.
we do this. That is how we
Yeah.
do this. Jay and I were joking that if the Democrats have the squad, if we can get us elected, we'll have a JTF.
Mhm. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Like I would like nothing more than when 15 of us get elected that they refer to us as the JTF. because that's what we'll be, man. And let's face it, man. There are 5 Navy SEALs running for Congress, right? Anytime you get 5 Navy SEALs together, man, that's a party.
Mhm.
Something's going to get broken. You know what I
Yeah.
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, like I said, I try to tell people about all these different candidates running, right? Eli Crane out in Arizona, Jay down in Florida, Dan Anderson in Virginia, and I'm going to leave a bunch of people out. There's Carla Spalding down in Florida, another veteran, awesome woman. Joe Kent, warrant officer up in Washington. His wife was Shan Kent. She was
Okay.
KIA in Syria. If you remember
Mhm.
Yeah.
that, right?
Yep.
So that's her husband
Yeah.
running up there.
Wow.
Zeke up in Montana. He's a former DEB commander. So
Mhm.
he's an officer, however, he was also Secretary of the Interior under Trump,
Oh,
and he did an amazing job.
yes.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm leaving some guys out for sure. Like I said, Mojo Luttrell. That's um, crap. What's the other Luttrell's name?
Marcus.
Oh,
Well,
Marcus.
Marcus. There we go. Crap.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, disrespect, Marcus. Little TBI brain fart there.
It happens.
It's his twin brother, and he's running down
Okay.
in Texas.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, there is a bunch of amazing folks running,
Yeah.
and that's what it's going to take is electing this dude. So it means, how do you get someone elected? You have to contribute to them.
Right.
Yep.
All those dudes I just mentioned, I've given them money.
Yeah.
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 And people think that $5 they don't that doesn't matter. Yeah, man.
What do you,
Look at
Well,
mine. Look at what we just
Tony,
did.
but Tony, I'm gonna say something, right? Because
Yeah.
from the fundraising side that I'm doing, you know what, $5 matter because I've gotten text and emails from people. Hey, man, this is
Yeah.
all I got, and I
Yeah.
hate to say this, and I'm not trying to side rail the conversation from you to me, but I think it's important people
No.
understand. I don't care if you were the top giving guy, thank you for it. But man, when that
Yeah.
guy says, "This is all I
All I
have,
got.
all I got,"
Mhm.
to me, and I say this not in a bad way, but to me, that means so much more
Yeah.
because that dude is scraping everything he's got
I
to give.
man, I had a couple of different folks DM me that almost brought me to tears, right?
Mhm.
Guys and gals who had just been forced out of the military, E4s, E3s. Well, we already know they don't make jack as it is. And they're
Yep.
giving me $10 at Christmas time.
Mhm.
And they're also telling me, like, please help me. I
Yeah.
This is all I have. You know what? I'm skipping dinner tonight to donate to you. Please
Yeah.
don't let me down. And I'm like, holy crap.
Mhm.
Bro, you want to talk about
Mhm.
why am I
Totally.
going to the gym? Why do I
Yeah.
say I'm training for freaking House of Representatives? Because the load that feels like is huge.
Mhm.
You know, it it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And my response to those young men and women has been the same. I promise you, I will not waste your money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's all I can do is promise you, I will not waste my money, your money.
And that's all you
No,
can ask for, right? Is like,
uh,
hey, man, you got, you've got your team that's giving you your advice, the best way to use those dollars, and
mhm.
I got it. It's a major um media type deal. I mean, I hate to say it, it's marketing, right? It's trying to get the
Yeah.
word
Yeah,
out there
yeah,
in those spots and everything else. And yeah, and um I would just tell you this, Tony, the other veterans you're talking to that's out there running, dude, they've always got a seat here at On the Range podcast, man.
Yeah.
Love to have them on, help spread the message.
yeah,
Uh, because here's the bottom line. I mean, you've brought up so many points, and I hope the viewers, listeners are picking all this stuff up just to listen to the way you talk, right? Just to sit there and go, hey, man, I want to represent my constituents, my voters. What a novel concept. I
yeah,
just wish, if you want to say the organization would listen to that and do the same thing.
yeah,
Um, but it's just, you know, um, let's get some change going in 2022,
Yeah.
man. Let's
yeah,
flip this thing around and
yeah, man.
um,
And again, it has to be all of us getting involved.
mhm,
It means going down to your local board of election, your county board of elections. They're the folks who are going to oversee the polls. Volunteer.
Yeah.
Volunteer for a candidate's campaign. I'm going to need volunteers. I'm going to be asking for them as soon as the districts are set. I'm going to need people to help me put signs out. I'm going to need people to just hand out a flyer with my name and address on it. Because this is all I'm not asking a single person to fundraise for me. I don't want anyone out there to ask another person to give me money. What I'm asking folks is tell them about my website, tell them about my Instagram and Facebook. Let them go over there and look at me, and then let them decide if they want to donate to me. I don't want anyone to ask another human being to give me money. What I'm asking folks to do is say, hey, look at this dude. Check out his website. And if I'm for them, I'm the right person for them, then let them make that decision on their own to donate for me. But I am going to need volunteers to just go stick signs in the ground, to hand out flyers, to just repost anything and everything I post on the internet. Just repost it, share it with your followers, send them my way, let them look at me and decide if I'm right for them. It's force multiplier stuff, right? I need force multipliers.
That's all it is. And doing a repost costs you nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. 2
And
seconds of your time.
I was talking to a friend of mine on Instagram. He's Knockout Lights, Mike. And he was saying, he's like, dude, I pull up my Instagram and all I see is you now. And I'm like, and he's in California, and he was, there were so many guys like you guys who shared my stuff, and influencers or whatever we want to be called.
People.
But before the election, I hit up a couple of guys and was like, hey man, I really want you to help me share this. And everybody was like, hell yeah. It kind of, and I guess this is a separate conversation probably. There was a handful of so-called influencers, so-called wannabe leaders in the 2A community who blew me off. And I understand maybe not wanting to associate your business with politics. But I also will say that if you're not willing to get involved right now, you are part of the problem, not part of the solution.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to support me for whatever reason, hey, I get it, right? I'm not for everybody, For the most part, I would give you the shirt off my back. If you cross me, I can be, for lack of better terms, an asshole. But ultimately, sometimes we have to set that type of stuff aside. And we have to be willing to put, I don't care about my business being destroyed because I'm running for office. I can get a job slinging a hammer. I'm pretty good at construction. I grew up doing it. I get a job at Best Buy. Hell, if you look at the job market right now, Chick-fil-A is paying $20 an hour, right? Yeah. I mean, hell, I'm sure you get some free chicken nuggets, and the things are delicious. I can get a job. Right? I can get a job. I can go guard bum if I have to, right? So I don't care about my business being ruined because of this, because our country depends on it, and our businesses revolve around that Second Amendment, right? So they take away the Second Amendment, our businesses are done anyway. So if the Second Amendment type businesses don't want to get involved out there, man, they're part of the problem, and that's just how it is.
No,
and I'm not like either you're with me or against me, right? Again, if you don't want to support me, cool. But there are so many other amazing candidates out there to go help and get behind. We got to get involved. And if you're not doing anything illegal, the ATF can't screw you down so much anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know, bro.
Well, and that's the whole thing, Tony, right? And we talk about it a lot here on the show. So we have all these quote unquote gun laws. But what are they really getting done? Nothing. Chicago has more gun laws than you can shake a stick. Still the deadliest city in the country, right? Doing nothing.
One of the worst in the world. Right here in America. Yeah.
So why wouldn't you back those pro 2A candidates? To me, it's a no-brainer. So to sit there and go, oh, I'm afraid. Okay. You know what? They run hand in hand. If you love the Second Amendment, which...
The years with the highest number of gun sales in America was 2020 and 2021.
Yes.
There are so many new gun owners in America, and many of them are right on the middle, right? They're still kind of Democrats, but they're paying attention now.
Oh yeah.
Their eyes have been opened as well. They are ripe for the taking. They are potential recruits, right? If we want to talk about recruiting, that's what we're doing here. You want to, it's a campaign, right? A psyops campaign, a subversion campaign. The country's been subverted by the communists and the far left over the last 80, 90 years. We have an excellent playbook. A lot of people say this. This is another good point, right? A lot of people say this. They say that the system is broken, it doesn't work. And I'm like, that is not true. You want to see the system work? Look at what the Democrats have accomplished. They've gotten everything they've wanted, everything they've ever asked for. And at this point, I think they're just making up shit to ask for. The Democrats have achieved it.
That's a great
The
point.
system still works. The reason a lot of conservatives say it don't work is because we're not getting what we want, because we're not active and we're not participating. So the system still does work. It just hasn't been working for us. So
Well, and that's
man.
the key point, Tony, is people need to get out there. They need to get out and vote. I mean, it's like, let's use North Carolina as a prime example. We try to pass legislation, and I'm talking here at the state level. All right. To actually remove some Jim Crow laws off the books that had to do with 2A, and the governor vetoed it. I'm like,
you know what?
You've lost.
Let's face it, man. Roy Cooper is a turd who needs to go. Right? He has to go. How he won the governor's seat, but Trump won the state, that doesn't even make any sense to me.
Yeah.
It's questionable. Because what is the reply to you need to go? When you tell folks these days, these young, disenfranchised, pissed off, right-leaning young kids, especially young men, when you tell them they have to go vote, they say, oh, yeah, because voting works. Clearly, voting doesn't work. They'll be like, yeah, what are we going to do? Vote harder?
Yeah.
And I say to them, it's not just voting. Volunteer at the polls, right? Make sure hold the polls accountable. Make sure that whatever happened in this last election doesn't ever happen again.
Yep.
You can go volunteer at the polls and just sit there and watch. You can help count ballots. Yeah. So between that and volunteering for, on campaigns, man, that's huge. A very good friend of mine is running for Pender County Sheriff, a guy named Mike Sword Jr. Mike is an amazing human being, an amazing police officer who's always treated even the thuggest of thugs fairly, right? He's a street cop. He's a community officer. And he spent most of his life being a narcotics officer. He wants to run for sheriff. He is running for sheriff, Pender County. And he's the sheriff we all want. But you know what? The establishment is fighting so hard against him. And so Mike needs volunteers. And let's face it, right? A sheriff is one heck of an influencing politician.
Oh, yeah.
And the cool thing is Mike's not a politician. Like, imagine me running for sheriff. That's Mike Sword, right? He's just an awesome dude. He's the type of sheriff that will be out there knocking on doors to serve a warrant himself, not sending a SWAT team. Mike is not a believer in a SWAT team. Mark was a narcotics officer, and as a sergeant, his narcotics troop, strike team, whatever you want to call them, they went and did their own warrants. They didn't do no knocks. They did it. They just knocked on the door. Hey, what's up, man? Here's your handcuffs. Put them on.
Yeah.
He's that type of guy. So my point is, right? I digress. I'm giving Mike a plug. I've joked, but it's not a joke. If Mike gets elected, I'll go to BLET, and I'll go to work for that guy. Yeah.
But see, here's the thing, Tony, right? It's not a shameless plug, right? Because people need to understand, and this is part that we talk about a lot here. You've got to get involved at the lowest level, So whether it's volunteering at the polls, how many people are actually going to these different meetings that's being held at their local municipalities,
right?
At these commissioner meetings and going, I don't agree with that policy, or I disagree. Right. So it's so much.
Yeah,
it's
every
so much
month.
more.
Yeah, every month in every county in this district, there is a GOP meeting. There is the men's Republicans meetings. There's the Republican women's meeting. There's the youth or the Young Republicans meetings. Go to them. Join those organizations. They are your advocates, right? And I'm going to be going to a lot of these meetings. I've got one tomorrow night in Clayton for the Johnston County GOP, right?
Mhm.
Join these groups and get involved. That you already have these folks. The structure is there. The network is there. The auxiliary is there. All you have to do is go and join, and then you can go to these meetings, and they will tell you how to make a difference. These
Mhm.
local level organizations, they're not corrupt. They're pure. They're
Mhm.
innocent. They are trying to do the right thing. So get involved, participate,
Yeah.
just like the
Yeah.
liberals have been doing. And
Yeah.
I know it's hard because you have a job, and it's hard because you have children, right? You got to pick them up from daycare. You got to take them to soccer. You got to take them to ballet. But you know what? We are going to have to figure out how to manage some of that stuff and actually get involved. You know, talking about children, right? Somebody asked me the other day. They said, "Hey, man, how are you going to represent families? You don't know what it's like to be a parent." And I was like, you know what? The reason I'm running is because I don't have kids. And while you go on the weekends to your soccer games and you take care of your children and your family like you're supposed to, I will take my time and go to that shithole called Washington, D.C. and represent you. I don't need to know what it's like to have kids, to ask someone with kids what they need and want.
Mhm.
I, don't,
Yeah.
I can represent someone. It's just like saying, hey, Tony, you're not a fireman. You don't know what it's like to be a fireman and put out fires. I'm like, you're right, but I can ask you what it's like and then go represent you.
Mhm.
Hell, we'd all been better off being firemen, right? Right? They're heroes.
Everybody
But
loves a
you see what I'm
fireman.
saying? I don't
Yeah.
need to be a police officer or a farmer to represent those folks, right?
Mhm.
I just need to go talk to them and find out what it is they need from me as a representative. I know
Yeah.
that sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But my next door neighbor, farmer, grain farmer, blueberry farmer, they have hogs, they have cattle, they do it all. These are folks who go to work at 4:30 in the morning and they don't stop till 10 o'clock at night, right?
Mhm.
Saw my neighbor. He likes to drive through my property. My road cuts through over to some of his property, and he's a young man. He's 23 years old. Doesn't have
Wow.
social media. Does not have social media, right? If you
Good for
ask
him.
him, hey, if you had asked him 3 years ago before I moved here, if he knew who Tony Cowden was, he'd have been like, huh? Who? What's he got to do with my farm? That
Yeah.
boy is 23 years old. He gets up at 4:30 in the morning, most mornings, sometimes earlier. And right when I saw him last night, he was on his way to finishing another job. And I was like, dang, boy, you putting in hours, aren't you? He's like, yeah, I'll probably work till, close to midnight tonight.
Man.
And I'm like,
Wow.
holy crap. And then this morning, I was up a little after 6 o'clock, went to the store to get some diesel fuel, and I saw him drive by opposite direction of his home. Like he had already gone that way, and he's already back.
Mhm.
6 o'clock in the morning, and he was working till midnight last night. That's a 23-year-old farmer, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to know what it's like to do his job to go represent him, to help loosen
Mhm.
some of these daggone insane regulations that the FDA and the USDA put on them, right? That are
Yep.
driving beef prices through the roof, driving hog prices, pork prices through the roof. They can't, right? Like, here's an interesting statistic, right? Everything about farming has gone through the roof as far as their costs, but the cost or the price of corn and beans and grains hasn't really changed much since 1970, right? The early 70s, but their costs
Mhm.
are through the roof,
Yeah.
right? So they have to produce more to cover it. One combine harvester from John Deere, and don't quote me on this, but they're like $400,000.
Yep.
I mean, these farmers, their costs are insane. So right now, diesel fuel is over $1 more than it was, a year ago,
Yeah.
right? And they're consuming thousands of gallons a week.
Mhm.
He was telling me the other day that a silo or storage container of fertilizer that they bought a year ago. They filled this bin up. It cost them 14 grand. They just refilled it 9 months later. Cost them 40 grand.
Holy crap! Wow.
They're all sitting here looking at me going, we don't really know if we can keep being farmers, man. And you're
Yeah.
talking about a 5th generation farm, like
Yeah.
what? They're one of the biggest farms in this area. And they're going, yeah, we just don't know how much longer we can do this.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
So,
JTank05 said he just donated. He's wishing the best to Tony. So big thanks to JTank05. But
yeah,
when
yeah.
you're talking, Tony, it's just like all of us. You're speaking for all of us, and you say it so much better than we do, and we're so happy that you're doing this. So I know that all the listeners, you can't see what the viewers are seeing, but we got Tony's website up there. So go check him out at TonyCowden.com. Love the name. Glad you went with that. It's so much more recognizable. Everybody's going to know exactly what it is, because there is a lot of people that know who you are on social media. So that was a smart move, but really appreciate you being on the show, and go check out his website and donate. It's got an easy quick donate buttons. Hit those and contribute to his campaign. It's just unbelievable. We're so proud to have you on the show and talk about it, Tony. Really are.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. And I'll comprise a list of all those special operations guys and gals who are also running around the nation. I'll send you guys that list, and I'll ping them as well and be like, hey, hit these guys up and see if they won't have you on their podcast.
Absolutely.
And because they need help, man. They need help.
Yeah.
I've tried to do what I can for them, to share my following with them. And not that I even have that many followers, right? Like, let's face it, in our world, there are gun style influencer dudes with 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
That's the leverage. Those are the dudes who are actually helping,
It is and it isn't, Tony, right? I'm not a super big, people always get wrapped around the numbers, right?
Right.
So
yeah, for sure.
are the numbers bots? Are the numbers bought? Are the numbers overseas that have zero influence?
Right.
It's looking at that whole interaction.
That's right.
You may
the
not have a
engagement.
big number, but when you got loyal people that follow you, loyal people that want to listen to what you're putting out, those to me are worth 10 times more the bang than having these umpteen gazillion. Whoopie ding, you got 100,000 bots. I'm proud of you.
Right.
They do nothing for me.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I try to pay attention to the ones, guys like Mike Jones, Grand Thumb. He was huge helpful. He's always, he sent followers my way over the years just by mentioning me on his YouTube stuff. And Mike is just an awesome, nice person, just a good dude. Of course, Glover and those guys at Fieldcraft, and then the guys at Black Rifle, nothing but helpful. They got real legit followings and stuff.
Sure.
Mike Knockout Lights, and I'm going to stop even trying to name people before I forget dudes. And but yeah, those were the guys I reached out to. And a lot of those dudes and a lot of my followers, the average age of my follower is 28 to 42 years old. They're adult males for the most part. I am getting some females finally through all of this, and I also think a lot of females actually like the stuff I post about Melissa. Melissa, man, she's just a hell of a role model. She's a role model for me, but man, what an American story in and of herself. But anyway, it's that adult male following that's turning into those engagement, men who want to protect the families, because that's where my following came from, was the shooting stuff, and so now that is being turned into awesome donations, man. And let's face it, right? 1,200 donations, 1,200 individual donors.
Wow.
That's an awesome number. It is insane. However, I've got 60,000+ followers. If every one of my followers gave $10, that'd be 60 grand right there. Right. So even still, I haven't leveraged even all of my followers yet.
Yeah.
Right. So lots more to come, man. Lots more to come.
Yeah, buddy. Well, the biggest thing, Tony, here's the deal. You know the deal. Let us know what we can do to help you. If we need to get you back on, a final push towards the end or whenever, man, always welcome here. Continue to push your stuff, continue to educate. And here's the bottom line, guys, whether you're in North Carolina or anywhere in the country, get out, make a difference.
Yeah.
I'd ask
Yeah.
the guys here in North Carolina, stay tuned. I don't know how you're going to put it out as far as needing help and stuff like that, but hey, man, you can take a couple hours of your time and let's make some change up there in DC.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll still be putting most of my stuff out on Facebook, Instagram. It's going to be on all of it. I am getting ready to get on Getter and probably Gab. We're looking at those things, trying to figure that out. But yeah, Instagram is still my primary. As we
Yep.
shift to really focusing on the district itself, Facebook is better at direct, local
Mhm.
stuff,
Yeah.
regional stuff, and but you know what? Everything I post on Facebook, I'm gonna post on Instagram. So when it comes time to actually asking for help, putting those signs out, coming to meet and greets, whatever, it'll all be right here on social media.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable,
Awesome, brother.
buddy. Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. And we're there for you.
No,
Let us know. And really appreciate you being on the show, Tony.
no, man. Thank you guys for having me. This is how we get it done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
buddy.
is how we
Yeah.
get it done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Grassroots. So do this once
Yeah.
we sign off. Just hold tight, Tony. We'd like to just chat with you sidebar after this. And
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Right on.
awesome,
Thanks,
buddy.
guys. Have a good one. Go crush
Thanks,
it.
everyone.